Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. I know earlier this morning I had a very quick broadcast. I just want to get most of the majority of the news out this evening. I will be traveling during the weekend, so I will not be broadcasting on Saturday or Sunday. And again, I will be overseas, so some of my videos will be not at the usual time that you guys are used to. But nonetheless, let's kick things off with a very significant development from Capitol Hill because just before a potential partial government shutdown, the Senate managed to advance a stopgap funding bill that was actually backed by President Trump to keep the government running through September. And again, this move came after a 62 to 38 vote with 10 Democrats and independent senators, Angus King siding with Republicans to surpass the 60 vote threshold needed to overcome a filibuster. So this is very good for government workers who, again, are worried about their paychecks, their salaries. And again, other government systems will continue to be ran until they actually sign the budget for the government. Now, this bill was not without controversy because Senator Majority Leader or Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer faced criticism from younger Democrats for reversing his stance against the Republican agenda. And the bill proposes maintaining the fiscal year 2024 spending levels through fiscal 2026, with a $6 billion increase in defense spending and a $13 billion decrease in non-defense discretionary spending. Additionally, immigration and customs enforcement will receive a slight funding boost for executing mass deportation. Again, all illegals must go, according to Donald Trump, and he will deport them. And as well, he will deport those who speak out against America, who are immigrants, maybe on an H-1B visa, a green card, you speak out against America, or you speak out against American allies. And we'll get into that a little bit later, because I know, what are you alluding to? What are you leading to? We'll get on that. So again, a lot of people on both sides supposedly was not satisfied with the bill itself, but it was deemed the best option to prevent a government shutdown. And of course, this development underscores the complexities and compromises inherent in what we look at as bipartisan. That bipartisan legislation that they keep telling American people that both sides want to come to grips with. And finally, here's a small indicator that it's possible. It's a very small indicator. Now, Elon Musk, as I was hinting on this morning about what's going on with Deutsche altogether, a recent report came out from the Government Accountability Office that challenges Musk's claim of identifying $1 trillion in government savings through the elimination of fraud and waste. Now, the GAO found that the total federal improper payments only amounted to $162 billion last year, far short of what Musk's trillion-dollar estimate was. And furthermore, Doge has quietly deleted, over 1,000 contracts from its so-called wall of receipts, raising questions about the accuracy and transparency it's reporting. Now, these revelations cast doubt on the efficacy of Musk's cost-cutting initiatives and highlight the challenges of implementing large-scale government efficiency programs. So a lot of the Democrats are closely viewing Musk and the firings now, the rehiring of federal workers who was on their probationary periods, as well as the government contracts that Elon Musk has himself. Now, I think they're going live right now of the rocket that will be sent to go save those astronauts who've been at the International Space Station for, I believe, 9 months. And if I can recall correctly, correct me in the chat, they was only supposed to be there for 2 weeks or 2 months, something like that, but they've been there for 9 months because of complications in space and the different apparatuses to get them to and fro. But nonetheless, NASA has sponsored, funded, in other words, SpaceX to retrieve them. So again, Elon Musk has had his share of government contracts, and so now they're viewing him with a wide eye of anything fraud, waste, and abuse on their part, as they was government contracting SpaceX out. Again, the CEO is Elon Musk, as we all know. So again, there's a lot of oversight on both sides, and they're finding truths and untruths on both sides. But again, is the Department of Doge, or Doge altogether, Department of Government Efficiency, is it worth being a department so they can sort out fraud, waste, and abuse in the government? And even though Elon Musk stated that, oh, it's $1 trillion in fraud in the government, and currently this is ongoing, of course, the Government Accountability Office stated that it's only been $162 billion. Well, I don't know about you guys, but $162 billion is still a lot of money. That is like the GDP of some very small countries and or small municipalities in bigger countries. 162 billion may not be a lot for America, but it's still a lot of money. I want you to think about you having $162 billion in your account and what you could do with that money. That's the only thing I wanted to state because I think is very, very significant. Now, in international news, President Trump announced that the U.S. has held productive discussions with Russia President Putin regarding a potential ceasefire in Ukraine. Now, Trump urged Putin to spare Ukrainian troops surrounded in Russia's Kursk region, referring to the situation as a potential horrible massacre. Trump said the Ukrainians will get killed. They will get massacred. There is no way they could ever fend off Russia. In response, President Putin stated that Russia will guarantee humane treatment to Ukrainian soldiers in Kursk if they surrender. However, Ukraine has denied that its troops are surrendering, adding complexity to the situation. Now, President Zelensky has called on the U.S. to leverage its influence to pressure Russia into a ceasefire, emphasizing the need for a swift resolution to prevent further casualty. So the situation is getting sloppy. President Trump has tried to garner peace. He had some unkind words to say initially about President Zelensky, but they buried the hatchet nonetheless. Then he tried to negotiate ceasefire with President Putin, but Putin had these very strict guidelines and policies and his own guarantees if they were to sign a ceasefire. Now, President Putin is asking for President Zelensky to have his soldiers in the Kursk region to surrender. Now, in my thing, if I was President Zelensky, understanding the strategic envoy of Russia and the massive amount of troops and the support that they're lacking from the EU nations as well as America, I will retrograde my troops back to home base and fortify places that are closer to the capital until we can negotiate with America and with Russia to garner a ceasefire. That is just my very early preliminary of a strategy that I would do. But again, Trump is treading very lightly because he understands that any wrong negotiation tactics or strategic methods with Russia could prolong this war longer than we're willing to fund it. Because at the end of the day, America has been stuck with the bill. So we're trying to get rid of a debt, just like any good American would.
Our chief international correspondent, James Longman, in Ukraine tonight.
Tonight, Vladimir Putin, in his first public response to the US-backed 30-day ceasefire plan with Ukraine, says he broadly supports the idea for a temporary ceasefire, but only with conditions, and that is not what the US demanded. Putin starting with a rare thank you to President Trump, but then saying there are issues that we must discuss with our American colleagues, saying he wants to call President Trump. Those issues include taking back territory seized by Ukraine in Russia's Kursk region, and Putin demanding that in any pause, Ukraine not rearm, train or mobilize troops. At the White House today, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump said he'd love to meet or talk with Putin, calling the Russian leader's comments very promising. Trump says he told his...
So this is very interesting because President Putin is stating that he doesn't want Ukraine to train or recruit any more troops. When, where, how long? Because again, in the past 15 years or so, Russia has attacked Ukraine. So we sign a ceasefire and hopefully that will lead to a peace treaty. I'm going to begin to fortify my position because one of the circumstances that President Putin has put on Zelensky is that the occupied areas that Russians have already taken over from Ukraine, that Ukraine state that is now Russian land. I stated this even before this information came out weeks ago. So it's very important that you guys subscribe to Blacklogic and you hit the notification bell so you are alerted every time I go live or post a video. Very interesting stuff, nonetheless. But this is very predictable. But this was not. This was not. Because the Department of Homeland Security has intensified action against individuals involved in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. Now, a second Palestinian student was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement for allegedly overstaying her student visa, which had been canceled in 2022 due to lack of attendance. Now, additionally, an Indian doctoral student had her visa revoked by the State Department under accusations of supporting Hamas and subsequently self-deported using the Custom and Border Protection Home app. And the first student that made headways dealing with this same situation, Mohammed Khalil, he has self-deported himself as well. Very intriguing. So what this is stating to me is you can have freedom of speech in America, but understand your status before you open your mouth. If you overstayed your visa and it's expired, don't say anything anti-America. In this case, anti-Semitic, or be pro-Palestinian, because they will check the records. Again, you have freedom of speech, but they also have the freedom to deport you because your student visa has expired or your H-1B visa is being canceled. Now, some may ask, what is your stance on that? I really don't have a stance. It's so complicated, but it's yet so simple. If I know that I'm here illegally, think about that. Your visa has expired. Your student visa has expired. Why would I speak up to bring light to my situation unless I want to be deported? Because again, Donald Trump, the Trump administration, ICE, DEA, the 3-letter and 4-letter agencies of America have made their stance. Tom Homan, the borders are, they have made their stance. They have put policy and legislations out to allow people to, one, self-deport. Number two, if you're here illegally and no one's paying attention, then you may not want to protest or speak out. But if you do, it's your right. But we also have the right to deport you. That is the takeaway that I have. Because again, as I stated, these actions follow the early arrest of Mohammed Khalil, who had a green card. He was a green card holder and a very prominent figure in the last year anti-war protests at Columbia University. Now, the Department of Homeland Security maintains the individuals advocating for violence and terrorism that forfeit their privilege to study and live in the United States of America. Another student has been arrested.
Last night. Days after a Palestinian activist and former graduate student was arrested, with the Trump administration trying to deport him. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky has the latest. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, George. Overnight, Columbia University says agents from Homeland Security Investigations showed up with search warrants at 2 student residences, and law enforcement sources tell ABC News they were looking for at least one woman who was not home at the time. Sources say these searches were all part of the Trump administration's crackdown on individuals described as sympathizing with Hamas, and they follow the arrest of Columbia graduate and Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. Overnight, his attorneys called Khalil's detention wholly unjustified. They called for his immediate release. Khalil's supporters protested at Trump Tower. About 100 protesters were arrested. The Trump administration says Khalil's presence in the country would have serious adverse foreign policy consequences, but his attorneys, George, say he broke no law and committed no crime. Michael?
All right. So that is the wrap up of that particular report. And when people protest, doesn't matter the demographics, the religion, doesn't matter your creed. When people protest, why do other people start to clap when individuals get incarcerated, when they get locked up? I mean, what was that your goal, to get locked up? I don't know. Again, if I'm protesting for a purpose, but I'm not clapping. I wouldn't clap if we're getting locked up. Okay, that's what they're going to do. We're protesting. We don't have a license or some sort of permit to protest. I don't know. But nonetheless, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I would not be cheering, but maybe it's something that I'm not aware of. This was a very, very sad story here. I don't know if you guys are privy. A suspect used in the girlfriend's car in fatal shooting of Fort Worth rapper Little Ronnie and daughter. And the reason why I'm bringing this story some attention, this is more of a story out of Fort Worth, local to them. But I saw a video clip on X, and society has a way to promote the 1 to 2% of Black society in a very negative light, in my opinion. I believe that no matter your race or demographic, whether it be white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, or other, that there's 2% of your population that what I describe as the low brow community. Those people you just look down at like, God damn it, gosh darn it, those guys can get it right. But they make our percent seem larger than 2% because they promote, they premiere, and they broadcast our 2% more so than the 98%, or even the 50% rather. And in this situation, there's a young lady that's involved in this. Unfortunately, her husband or whether her boyfriend, I forgot his status, her boyfriend and or her husband and her daughter were killed. Very sad story. Her daughter and her husband or boyfriend was killed. I can't imagine my wife or one of my children being killed. I don't know how I would respond. I would definitely tell them to take all of my weaponry, all of my guns away. Take them away, because I don't want to do anything rash. Now, this wasn't a police incident. This was maybe some gang activity or people jealous of this young man because of his family. I don't know the details. That's not important. I don't know how people grieve. Everyone grieves differently. But what I'm about to show you is not the way that I have ever envisioned anyone grieving. So this young lady here started a GoFundMe. Let me give you some of the details. They're stating here that Little Ronnie's girlfriend faces backlash after showing off $50,000 from her GoFundMe money, and while she's rocking a Louis Vuitton crossbody bag. Again, I'm not the grief police. I don't know how people are supposed to grieve, but this, again, I don't usually show things of this nature, but it has rubbed me the wrong way because I want to know if there's any of you guys out there who grieves like this. And again, to the left, that is her boyfriend who got murdered along with her daughter. So again, I do apologize for any profanity or obscene language, but I had to show that because I just don't understand. I just never seen people mourn or go through a state of grief in this manner where you have security because you started a GoFundMe and people have donated thousands of dollars. I don't know the exact amount, but I would like to believe it's over $50,000. She has $50,000 in cash right here. And she also had to pay for security. Who knows? Looks like she's with maybe another local rapper. I'm not telling the sister how to grieve, but this is not a good look because if she ever needed more support, people like myself who actually give to GoFundMes, we are definitely in a decline of ever supporting something again in this manner, unless we know the full details. And people have come out. People have come out and made different statements about this very same thing. I was looking at, and I'll show you my comment. I'll show you my comment here. This is what I stated. I said, to our 1% to 2% Black lowbrow community, may you please let us know who you are before we support you. Why? That way we know not to give you support financially so you can act a fool online after such a horrific murder of your family. That's why. Yes, we should support emotionally. Yes, we should lift them up socially. But if this is what you're going to do with thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars that people support to you, wow. I digress. Now, Trump is still speaking in very strong terms about annexing Greenland. And even though Greenland is a territory of Denmark, Greenland is they still have their own sovereignty, right? They have a prime minister, but they kind of look for protection and other high level support from the Denmark government. But nonetheless, they're their own sovereign entity. But Trump has still been stating that he wants for Greenland to be an annex of America, meaning that he wants them to be a territory of America, like the U.S. Virgin Islands, Hawaii, Alaska, a lot of these places that we kind of connect later on. Puerto Rico is a great example. But nonetheless, with this particular story, bear with me. I do apologize for the profanity in this next clip. It's not much, but I think this is a great response for Americans that I'm about to show you guys. Because the Greenland Prime Minister, Blaž Trump, talked of the U.S. annexation, and he stated, enough is enough. We're tired of America disrespecting us. Can I get into this? It stated here that the outgoing Prime Minister of Greenland blasted talk Thursday by President Trump that the potential annexation of the massive Arctic island by the United States wouldn't happen. The U.S. president has once again aired the thought of annexing us, Prime Minister stated. Don't keep treating us with disrespect. Enough is enough. That is what the Prime Minister said. He said, President Trump, enough is enough. Not that I take President Trump's side, nor the side of the Prime Minister of Greenland, but I do have a response that I think majority of Americans can jive with, they vibe with, they have an energy with, that you guys will understand what I'm getting at. And you may respect this stance that most Americans, I believe, will have in response to the Prime Minister of Greenland.
You ain't gonna do shit, nigga. You ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do it. You ain't gonna do shit.
I think, of course, every American won't be vulgar with the language, but nonetheless, I think you guys get my grift that is exactly how most Americans well, looking at that situation, talking about enough is enough. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I know. I'm not trying to make America a bully, but you're Greenland. You have 57,000 residents, and you have no army or really anything. You probably have like a small security force. But anyway, Elon Musk is canceling over 200,000 credit cards. Now, I don't want to pat myself on the back. I don't have a large ego, but I just covered the Nassar Act just a couple of days ago, where they were first submitted legislation to decrease your credit card percentage rates to 10% for the next 5 years. There was going to, majority of credit card interest rates are anywhere between 28 to 30%, 25 to 30%. Yeah, some of you may have credit cards at around 4, 6, 10%. Those are rare, but the average amount of Americans' credit card interest rates are around 25% or more, even up to 30%. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as well as a neighboring Republican, Bernie Sanders, Josh Hawley, and as well as Donald Trump, all support the decrease from your credit card's interest rates down to 10% for the next 5 years at least, which will help out millions of Americans, help out even myself with my business credit cards, no less. But over 200,000 people, counseling over 200,000 people, that is part of the Nassar Act. Can we look it up? And people can say that the Nassar Act, that this is a hoax, that this is a conspiracy theory. Again, I keep seeing tall tale signs. I keep seeing this indicators that the Nassar Act is very, very possible, okay? I want to pop up a quick sheet. Give me 1 second. You see it all over the government websites. I'm just typing Obama. Give me 1 second here. And I just want you guys to see, excuse me. I just want you guys to see this very quickly. Look at this. Zero out all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt. Again, and I'll just give you guys a quick rundown if you missed that broadcast, that this started with Bill Clinton. Someone proposed this to Bill Clinton, and he has been toying with it. He passed it on to Obama. Obama is aware. And matter of fact, this is petitions.obamawhitehouse.archives.gov. And this got all the way into the hands of President Trump. And President Trump is interested in doing this as well. He's actually spoke about it. He had it on his website. If I go back here very quickly, I'll show you. Give me 1 second here. It was down here somewhere. Give me 1 second. I just want to prove my point here. Executive Order C-13-849, that's not it. I thought I just saw it. But I did show it on that broadcast. You guys might want to go check that out. But nonetheless, this is nothing new. This has been in the realm of them trying to accomplish this for the past 20 years, ever since Bill Clinton. And what's funny about this, I was trying to explain to someone how Donald Trump is secretly, but right in front of all the Americans' faces, of trying to accomplish passing different parts of the Nassar Act. Here's another indication of the Nassar Act trying to be enacted. Tell me if I'm wrong. Again, this webpage was posted in 2011. We're talking about over 20 years ago, okay? Look at this. Creates a 14% flat rate, non-essential new items only sales tax revenue for the government. Remember the flat tax that J.D. Vance and Trump were referring to? I think Elon Musk also hinted on this as well. Let me show you something else. Now, there is a part of this, I don't see it on here, abolish the income tax, but this also stated to abolish the IRS. what they're thinking about dismantling. So again, there's a lot going on. And I'm keeping my eye on this for you guys, keep you guys updated. And as I told you guys before, there will be no broadcast on Saturday or Sunday. I am traveling. And then videos will not be released at its usual time. I will be overseas for a couple of weeks. Nonetheless, I will still be giving you guys the news. If you're new to Blacklogic, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you are alerted every time I go live or post a video. I thank you guys for joining me here this evening. You guys have a great and wonderful night. This is Blacklogic.